Hey everybody, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Oh my god. Wait a minute. I just gotta think this is Andrew Nichols entered the waiting room.
Oh, there we go.
We have a gentle dumper.
What is this? I'm gonna add him.
Yeah. Do it. Bring him on in. It's the Indoraptor himself.
For the audience, we're surprised by this.
Yeah, this is
Audio is
I
connected.
don't even have anything. I'm stunned.
Eh,
Speechless. Look at this
We
guy.
did not think you were gonna we didn't think you were gonna be here.
Yeah, I just had
Big cameo.
We
A surprise
hopped on
cameo.
right as we were starting, so that was good timing.
perfect timing.
Okay.
What do we do?
We're talking about Jurassic World Dominion today,
Mhm.
which is, according to the studio, the final film in the Jurassic franchise as we currently know it. I don't know what that means. It's hard when it's like it's wrapping up its own trilogy and then a larger thing, but that's the idea. You get it.
Yeah.
We got our main characters for this one, same as always, Chris Pratt, Owen Grady, Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire something. I don't know. But this time, we get the original trilogy, or not trilogy, the original trio back from the original Jurassic Park. We got Dr. Ian Malcolm, Dr. Ellie Sattler, and Dr. Alan Grant, with, of course, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. He might go by Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Jeff Goldblum reprising all those roles to be Jurassic about it. So, without further ado, would anyone, you know what? Actually, because I'm leading the show and I already have heard what Garrett and Andrew think, I want to hear from David first.
Oh, okay. I was the Jurassic defender, Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom a little bit. Not to say we all agree we like Jurassic World. Fallen Kingdom was a not so much. I have to say, unfortunately, I have more problems with this than I have praise. I don't think I've heard a lot of people going in saying that it was mindless fun. And I don't think it was quite mindless. I think mindless implies that there's no sense of coherency scene to scene. I felt like everything that happens makes sense based on what just happened in the previous scene. But it did get to be, I think, a bit monotonous. It got to be a bit repetitive and it got to be a bit too much at times. The action is better than we've had in a long time. But unfortunately, I have pretty much three problems. I have like a general problem, I have a core problem, then I have a dorky problem that we can get into later. But I think it was for the most part enjoyable. I have a basic problem. That was over the other one, basic, core, and dork. But I enjoyed myself for the most part. But yeah, I don't know. As we overcome most of the rest of this conversation, it's gonna be up to you guys, I think, to make me feel better about it. But I that may not happen.
Nope.
It's going to be up to me is the problem. I liked it.
Bad.
Oh,
This movie's
you
really,
liked
really
it?
bad.
I liked it.
Yeah. No, this movie's really bad. It is a really upsetting way to end out this amazing franchise. It's really bad. And I went back and I listened to our Jurassic World 1 and 2 episode, and I look at these with optimism. And I think this movie was doomed for me from hindsight based on how bad I reviewed Fallen Kingdom. Because every issue that I had with Fallen Kingdom, they leaned into. And so I was ready for this movie to be over an hour into it. For me, they took the B plot of Charlotte Lockwood, made it the A plot, and made dinosaurs secondary. And that is the exact opposite of what anything Jurassic is about. And I think that there were moments, again, where there could have been enjoyable moments, but even those moments I could not get myself on board with because of how terrible I truly feel the story is.
Can I?
And like even the dinosaur action, a lot of it I felt was not as good as some of the others. Like,
See,
we'll
and
get
that's
into it later.
stunning to me because I thought I was happy that David said the action was some of the best we've seen in a long time because I agree wholeheartedly.
I think the scene where they're fighting in the city would have been better had I liked the story because I was so sucked out that I just didn't care. But there were moments where I was like, if I cared a little bit, then I would be entertained. So I chuckled, I laughed, and I was like, okay. But then I argue that the very last fight that we see is shake cam of people running with dinosaurs fighting in the background. That I didn't get enough of that. And I just think they did a bad job of telling this story in general.
Can I insert something real quick before Andrew or Josh goes?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was the opposite problem that the Fallen Kingdom had. Remember last week we talked about you guys liked the first half of Fallen Kingdom, which was a little bit more action, a little bit more dinosaurs in the jungle. getting away, fast-paced, frenetic. And then Fallen Kingdom gets really weighty with this complicated cloning story at the second half. This one I felt like started with way more story and way more like stuff going on that was like, hey, here's the complicated story. And then it just went into like full on action mode after a certain point. It was like flip flop from the Fallen Kingdom. Sorry, Andrew, go. Or Josh.
No, yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Are those real glasses? Is that a filter?
These are blue blockers.
Yeah, good old blue light glasses.
The only thing I really liked about this movie, and unfortunately, I don't think it had any relevance towards the plot at all, was the dinosaur chase in Malta. That was the only thing I liked about this movie. If I have to quote anybody from anything, I'd have to quote Dr. Ian Malcolm whenever I say that was one big pile of shit.
All right.
Josh, save us.
Ooh, you
Here we
put
go.
me
You
in a
stand in
bad
grace,
position
man.
here. So here's the thing. I'll say the issues that I do have with the movie haven't come up yet, so that's exciting. Where do I start? I feel like I need to start with what I liked and save what I didn't for later.
Yes.
So the dinosaur action was just fucking incredible, and I won't hear anything else. It was so good. The chase scenes were very exciting. Some of the fight scenes were really good. I honestly don't have an issue with the story, particularly because this whole Jurassic franchise at its base level is about shady corporations doing creepy things with DNA. So like the clone girl and all that, it does fit the Jurassic mold for me pretty well. I thought having the original trio return was great. I thought they all did well and they all stepped back into those roles pretty well. Sorry, the light started blinking. The light is flickering. But on the same token, I will say that where the original trio propped up the movie, what it really showcased for me is how much I do not and have never cared about Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard as characters. This movie, one of the issues for me with this, and see, he's been doing that for 2 movies, so it's interesting that it took y'all so long to get mad about it.
They overdid it in this one.
Yeah, literally.
That's a defining personality characteristic is his hand wave.
And we'll get to that in a second too.
One of the big problems with Fallen Kingdom we talked about was that I felt like it was 2 movies that they tried to shove into one. And they did that again this time. There are 2 movies in this. One is about Owen and Claire trying to rescue, what was her name?
Maisie.
Amazing.
Trying to rescue Maisie from the corporation. That is one movie. And then there's a second movie where Ian, Ellie, and Alan are trying to stop Biosyn from using genetically altered prehistoric locusts to basically wipe out any type of food that doesn't come from Biosyn, right? That's a separate movie. And I like that movie better than the other one by a long shot because the stakes are higher, the characters are more interesting, and it's just a more unique approach than just having to rescue this girl. That's
Right.
Their plotline had little to do with anything really. But also, as I said in Fallen Kingdom, I will say again that Claire, it bothers me that she's not in prison. It really does. She unleashed a real horrible hell on this earth that many people died from, and she just gets to live in the forest with her boyfriend and stolen child. It makes
And
me
I say
not like those characters.
what you said right there, I think, is what underlines my issue with this whole story premise. Is at the end of Fallen Kingdom, you had 2 opportunities to pick up on something, even that I didn't necessarily care for. You had the militarized dinosaurs, which made a brief appearance in this and then never again. So that story, once again, I say was useless from the jump. If you're not going to carry that over into this movie, that whole thing was useless. And oh my God, I had another point I lost it. So somebody else go. It'll come back to me.
Well, I was going to get at some more of my issues with it that we hadn't really talked about yet. We do get to see some of what Earth is like now, intermingled with humans and dinosaurs. I would have liked to have seen more of that, but ultimately,
That was my other point. I'm sorry. Is that this movie focused on a plague of locusts more than the ending movie of the plague of dinosaurs that were roaming the earth. And that is another swing and a miss. I don't care about the locusts. Like, I'm just supposed to believe that the society and dinosaurs have intermingled just fine because that seems to be the premise that I'm supposed to believe. And I
No,
know
it hasn't been just fine.
Yeah,
I do think-
why don't you show me that?
I do have a very-
of this movie. I
that's
don't
the
care
thing-
about the locusts. You got dinosaurs running the plague. I don't give a shit about your prehistoric
But the-
locusts. You got dinosaurs out there.
but the locusts are
That-
dinosaurs. They're
But they're
prehistoric.
what do you expect? Like, if you give me
Yeah.
a movie like this and go,
They're
the
in-
main part is the locusts that are gonna do this and not the dinosaurs that have already escaped and causing havoc, you're missing it.
The thing is, okay, so like I'm fine with the locust because it is like a prehistoric element. It goes back to something Ellie said in the first movie was
Yes.
that she's a paleobotanist, and she's like, not only did you bring back dinosaurs from a long time ago, you've brought back plants from a long time ago that don't have any role in this ecosystem anymore. It's going to completely wreak havoc on things. So whether it's prehistoric lizards, mammals, we unfortunately don't get enough prehistoric mammals in these things either, but like lizards, animals, insects from bygone era, they're going to have large ecological effects. My basic issue with the movie is that it is slightly too long. I think it's like 10,
Yeah, it's half an hour too long, actually.
just because I was starting to notice it, and when I really noticed it, I started to keep track of it mentally in my head, and then I was like, okay, it could have stopped. It could have stopped somewhere here, and we could have been fine. My core problem is, while I love the original trio from the first movie, I do like Owen. I'm so on Claire. I think Owen is a very interesting mix of Alan Grant and someone else, where the raptor guy in the first movie, the clever girl, that guy.
Yeah.
He's a mix of those two, where he cares about the animals on a personal level and he has respect for them as what they are, dangerous. So I like Owen. The problem for me is these two eras that you're building the movie on, the new era and the old era, it took far too long for those two things to meet. By the time these two eras joined together, united, the movie's like 30 minutes, 25 minutes from being over. So this like big moment is squandered, really, because there's no time for these characters to get to know each other, no time for it to build, for them to have any attachment to each other. They literally bump into each other by chance almost, which Jurassic Park chance is a thing. But I think it would have been more impactful for us to get these characters interacting over the course of the whole movie. They should have like recruited each other early on and been a larger story going on of them and their roles in these films, because it just felt pointless by the time they finally met each other, and they get like some throwaway dialogue of like, oh, I've heard of you. You worked with raptors. I read your book. Yeah. Oh, you're cool too. You worked at Jurassic World. Oh, yeah. Hey, we've all been in these movies. It's like they all went, hey, you've been in these movies before, right? Yeah, me too. Oh, cool.
A lot of fans here.
It really could have. Oh, hang on one second.
Go ahead, Andrew. You've been quiet.
Hang on.
No. Well, all I was going to say was just like the characters, number one, are very one-dimensional. Like they're so one-dimensional. Like who's good, who's bad. The things that like, I think the Jurassic Park tale of we've created these dinosaurs and then, oh my God, they get loose is old. Like it needs to stop. It needs to stop because I think we figured out by now that having these dinosaurs just wreak havoc in the world is just not good. The other thing is, and David, you touched on this, is there's just no surprise element. I was waiting for a surprise element and I never got it. I'm like, is there something going to happen? Like,
Boy,
Okay.
I
gotta put my
call-
foot down. I speak. Because I sat next to Andrew at this screening, and the number of times he jumped out of his skin is more fingers than I have. So don't you give me any crap about no surprise.
no. That's
Mr.
not what I
Andrew.
meant.
You were terrified.
there was a twist that I
You
wrote
were.
around like the 22-minute mark or something of this movie. I wrote a twist for myself, and when that twist did not happen, I was like, oh, see, that's a problem that a lot of people get into these days, is setting unfair
I don't think-
expectations.
Oh yeah, that's the TikTok problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and people they have their idea of what the movie's going to be, and then it doesn't. This was more something that I thought they genuinely were teasing in the moment in the film, which I can touch on here in a second. So the film brings back a character that no one is going to remember. Andrew, you may remember this. So the main bad guy in this movie is a guy, I don't remember his first name. Let's say Richard Dodson. Okay?
It was Dodson. I'll tell you. I'm sorry.
Andrew, help me out with this. Ready? All right. So Andrew is going to play Wayne Knight in this scenario, right? I picture me in a Hawaiian shirt handing you a can and saying, hey, by the way, don't say my name out loud.
Dodson. We got Dodson here.
You guys
See,
remember
nobody
this?
cares.
Nobody
Nice hat.
cares. Jurassic Park 1, the guy that gives Wayne Knight the canister to get the embryos to F up the whole park in the first place, he finally returns in the series. He was actually the bad guy in the Lost World, the book. but he comes back here finally after all these years. He was such an odd character, and it was such an odd performance that it really took me out of the movie.
Is that the bison guy?
Yeah,
Or
the
is-
Biosyn guy who was playing who was doing Ricky Gervais's bit from Night at the Museum, but playing it straight, where he would just not finish sentences and act like he had no idea what was going on the entire time.
Yeah.
People would come up to him and go, "Sir," and he'd be like, "What? God, leave me alone."
Listen, this is where
He was so odd. And
I just-
Odd, but he was playing the role of the out of touch billionaire. He was your
right?
Musk or
And
your Jeff Bezos.
the twist that I thought was coming, right, was because at one point he's talking to them, he's introducing them to the plates, and he's like, "This guy, he's like me, but younger and better and more interesting." And then he like says, "So have a good day," and yeah, that's it. He disappears, and then we see him again in another scene, and I thought to myself, "Oh, this guy has cloned himself, and he has clones of himself walking all over this place, and it's a different Dodson we're seeing each time. That's why he wants this little clone girls, because his clones they're not working. They don't have good memory. They pause, they say weird things. They stop halfway through. They don't know what's going on because this Dotson had this conversation, that Dotson had another conversation. And that's why he wants this clone girl to fix his clones of himself.
And even that would have been a better story because
It ended up being the case.
the way that they just integrated the whole DNA stuff just seemed forced. Biosin came out of nowhere. It just seemed forced. You can have the locust plague. You can have Owen trying to go get Dr. Grant and Sadler because there are prehistoric locusts as a consequence of them being released that are just being formed. You can use the fact that Charlotte Lockwood used monitor lizard DNA to do whatever. I'm getting into spoiler territory. I apologize. And that could explain why these dinosaurs are roaming the earth and reproducing without the need of a mate. And then you're recollecting all of them because you have to wrangle them up. But instead, you even give Dr. Woolen out for no reason. And it just doesn't make sense. Like the way they approached it was such a cop out that it was so wasteful. And it's just really frustrating for me as a fan to see this level of almost apathy to a story. Like it comes across as they really did not know where they were going.
Yeah, I do think that there was a clear issue so after the Malta scene, right? And they fly off, they get I'm trying to remember where the two things lined up. You had in one sequence, can you hear that over there? This toy going off? Anyway, you have in one sequence, you have Alan Grant and Ellie right there in a thing with a bunch of locusts that they're trying to get a sample of, right? And the other scene, you have Claire and Owen and new character Kayla flying a plane, right? They get attacked by a big pterosaur, they crash. From that moment on, we really don't get any dialogue or conversation that isn't just advancing like the momentum of the plot. It occurred to me after they deal with this feathered raptor, they're in an elevator and Kayla looks at Owen. He's like, "Are you ready to get your girl?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You really love her, don't you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do." And I was like, huh, what a weird, like, that's like I think like the first time he said anything that wasn't "go" or "who are you" or "where are we going" or "yeah, I get that." Like in a long time. It just felt like everything was action pacing for a long time. And there were very few moments to breathe with, at the very least, Owen and Claire's characters. They had no chances to really like breathe after that dinosaur chase started. Alan and Ellie get a little more time to be characters and interact and talk about, oh, little times passed and all that. But it's just like it just felt like I didn't have any time to breathe. It didn't feel like the characters got to interact at all.
This is where I go back to me not caring about those characters because there's just no reason to. That Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard have the, I don't know, compatibility of Link Wall. I don't know. They have no chemistry whatsoever. And ultimately in this movie, and this is why I don't like their storyline, they don't serve any purpose, period. It is Alan and Ellie who save Maisie. Claire and Grady do nothing to save her. Nothing. If you remove them from the movie, Maisie is still saved at the end, and everything still goes perfectly well because our original trio are the heroes of this movie.
They travel
That
the whole
storyline
world and they get all the way there and someone else brings them to her, basically.
Right.
Like by sheer chance, by incident. It really took me back to when we did Kong versus Godzilla, and you had an A story and a B story there with what's the Stranger Things girl, and then there were like this other group of people that one was following Godzilla and the other one's following Kong, and then they just happenstance meet up at the end. Right. But their two stories never have any sense of overlap, and that's what you have here. there's no overlap in stories. There's all like they meet and they're like, "Are you guys good guys? Okay, we're good guys. Cool. We'll just hang out then for the rest of the movie," because that's just how it felt. There was no connection between those two characters. And like I said, I didn't hate it, but I do have a lot more problems than I have praise here. Sorry, it's a mess over on this side.
Yeah, I will also say that, like, don't expect this episode to end with me giving this movie 4 or 5 stars. It's gonna be low, but I still think I think it was better than Fallen Kingdom. I really do.
No,
It was so much more fun.
this
Because
is
like I
without in
said,
my.
Like,
We'll get
Fallen
into it, but
Kingdom
like
sucked
this is
about how
bad.
boring it was, but this wasn't boring to me.
I was ready. I told you I was checking my watch 1 hour into this movie, which is 2.5 hours long. 1 hour into this movie, I wanted to leave. Honestly, there is a high chance that had I not been there with you guys, I would have walked out on the board. I'd have been like, "This is not. No, I'm not doing this." I would have walked out.
I don't know if it was
Wow.
quite that bad.
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, see,
I had
for
zero
me,
fun.
Fallen Kingdom, like we talked about the other week, I didn't hate it. I don't mind. I didn't mind the second half of the movie. I didn't. I kind of liked it because it was exploring an element that it was exploring the next logical step. If you're, cloning dinosaurs, you would eventually move on to other things. You'd move on to people or something like that. So I was fine with that, and I was interested to see where it would go. And unfortunately, I don't feel like it. Like Garrett said, it did take the A story with Maisie being a very big part of this story, and so that's why naturally I thought that there was going to be something bigger going on than just curing this plague of locusts. That's like kind of what the core of it ended up being. So I'm disappointed in a lot of ways, and I do have a star ranking for disappointed that we'll get to later. Yeah, I don't know. You want to know my dorky complaint for this?
I refuse to believe it hasn't been said already.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Stuff,
So
dorky complaints.
the dorky complaint, all right, is I talked about when we talked about the other two movies. I talked about how cool it was and how much I thought it was cool that Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom managed to do what something that the other three movies, the prior three movies, hadn't done, which was create a character out of one of the dinosaurs. We have this raptor, Blue, who is unusually compliant for a raptor and has a strong bond with Owen, and it's like almost to the extent of like a wolf with Owen. And she is almost not in this movie. She appears at the beginning, her baby gets taken, and she does not appear for the rest of the movie. She comes back at the end for what felt like such a strong bond for those first two movies, and what felt like a core element of Owen's character is his bond with this dinosaur. It became not even the B plot; it was the C plot. It was like, oh yeah, we're here. Oh wait, we also got to get that baby dinosaur. Let's go do that real quick. And
I also think that
I felt bad because obviously they can't drag Blue halfway across the world in the back of a plane. She's a raptor, but at the same time, it just felt weird for that animal to be cut out of the story so much.
and that's why I think all the bias and stuff is unnecessary. Like you can have all the repercussions of the dinosaurs escaping and still involve the original characters. Plus, they introduced too many other characters for the final movie of this. You had the whole bison thing. You had the pilot. You have all of these other main characters. Plus, you're getting the original three back. So those are three brand new characters that you have to give a reason for. Plus, you have to give a reason for the bad guy. Plus, you have to give a reason for the pilot. Plus, you have to give a reason for this. And you don't need all of that when you can just have the locust story. Like Ellie is investigating all of this stuff, and oh my God. And then the dinosaurs are escaped. So Owen has to go get Dr. Grant because he's read the book. And then he brings the raptor and he's like, oh my God, look at all the stuff you could do. And then Malcolm is still there being the moral thing. I also didn't necessarily care for the weird Ocean's 11 plot sneaking around the thing that Ellie and Dr. Grant did because that didn't necessarily fit their character profile. So like it just really did seem all over the place to me.
Yeah. So you thought that was too dorky, Josh?
Oh, very much. No, because your dorky complaint is my wish list because Owen and Claire disappeared like Blue did. Honest to God. I
That's too
that
much.
we had never seen them again until the end when they could be reunited with Maisie because they are dull in this movie. They are so.
I think you need. I would be fine with, like you said, I would almost be fine with losing Claire. I think Owen brings something that
Claire
the
has
other
been,
three
and I
don't
want to be
bring
careful
much.
with this.
By other three, I
because
mean,
Claire has been an unlikable character this entire franchise. That's the problem. And to me, it's because she's the boss. She created Jurassic World, so immediately I don't like you. You did a bad thing, and I have wanted her to pay for it for a long time. And so like it's just annoying to me that she's been made into a hero when like It's even mentioned in this movie. What are you trying to do? Absolve for your past? And she's like, no, you belong in jail.
And it's like, yeah, that is what you're trying to do. Don't act like that's such a crazy
I don't.
thought. It is like it's like, and the thing is, if that just, I think,
And
play into that as the story. Okay, you were given a second chance. They didn't give you jail time. And so she sees herself, I've been giving a second chance.
I still don't
want
think-
to undo the wrongs of I want to undo as best I can the wrongs that I brought in this world. But the way that she ends up going about that doesn't really end up, I don't think it ends up being enough to change anything. She's trying to save dinosaurs, which is nice.
here's why I
But,
still don't
you
care.
know,
Alan, Ian, and Ellie in the first three they're experts in their field, right?
Mhm.
Owen and Claire have no idea what they're doing at any point in this franchise because they're not experts. Grady is just like a raptor whisperer that's never been explained, and Claire is just a businesswoman. And they don't have any expertise to bring to this story. And I think when we finally saw them up against the real experts, they lost me totally. They're just dudes.
and that's the thing is
They might as well be NPCs.
and it's the opposite way for me too. The trio, they're just like, they came across as such old, out of place people because Chris Pratt's character is so much more of like a capable action star who's like can handle himself in a scary situation. Whereas like the rest of them seem like they're like, "Ugh." Like they just seem like they're like, we are meant to be in the field digging up bones and looking at stuff. We are not meant to be here, which is the fun of the first movie, of the very first movie, and why it works so well. And I think it's the fun of the first Jurassic World movie, and why it works so well is because it's more of an action-oriented version of the Jurassic Park concept. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
David,
let's-
this is going to be quick, boy.
oh yeah,
your
I'll run
thoughts?
down this. I'll run down this real quick. So opening estimates. This is opening weekend of Jurassic World Dominion. Opening estimates are $143 million world domestic. And so whatever you can say about this franchise from a critical standpoint, it has been a monster reimagining in terms of the box office because all three films have had huge openings. For the weekend of June 10th, it's Jurassic World Dominion with 143, Top Gun Maverick in its third weekend with 50 million, which is, I believe, one of the highest all-time third weekends. It is, I think, it's either the first or the second highest all-time highest third weekend for a movie not about like a superhero of some sort. Doctor Strange comes in at number 3 with 4.8 million. Bob's Burgers movie at number 4 with 2.3. And The Bad Guys still hangs in there with 2.2 million in its fifth weekend. For internationally, Jurassic World is also killing it. It's brought in $245 million overseas for a worldwide total of $389 million. Here's a kind of fun stat. So in a 6-week period, we've had Doctor Strange, Top Gun Maverick, and Jurassic World Dominion all come out worldwide. Those three movies have made over $2 billion worldwide in just 6 weeks.
Cool.
So the box office is not only fairly well back, it is now like booming. And we've got more big movies coming out for the rest of the summer. So it's going to be interesting to see how this year does compare at the end of the year to 2021 and 2020. Like I said, those three movies, Doctor Strange, Top Gun, and Jurassic World, $2 billion combined worldwide. Compared to the other movies, Jurassic World Dominion will soon pass Jurassic Park 3 pretty quickly to become the 5th highest grossing Jurassic World movie. It's got a good chance to probably finish, I would say, close to $300 million domestic, which would put it just behind Jurassic Park and the other two Jurassic World movies. And then finally, for the year of 2022, this is a bit of an update from last week. Top Gun Maverick has passed Doctor Strange to be the highest grossing movie domestically in the United States with $393 million. Doctor Strange at $379 is number 2. The Batman at $369 is number 3. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is sitting at number 4. And then Uncharted is hanging precariously onto the number 5 spot. Jurassic World Dominion could pass that. Will pass that on Monday, but maybe could pass it on Sunday, depending on the actuals that come out. Yeah, so it's been a big year. Jurassic World Dominion has the second highest opening weekend of the year so far. It'll be interesting to see what the drop off is for week 2. If a bad word of mouth or bad critic scores drag it down, or even just middling critic scores bring it down. Yeah,
We'll see. What are our ratings, guys? What do we got?
I'm also going to give it a 2.5. I think this is probably my least favorite Jurassic movie.
1 star.
Ooh,
Yep.
1 star.
This is a 1-star movie. This is bad.
Wow. Wow.
All right, then let me briefly read some of our fun reviews here in the last couple minutes. These are some of the highest rated reviews on Letterboxd for Jurassic World Dominion. We've got the top review says, at least there are real dinosaurs in this one. Which
Yes,
took me
hey.
a second to mean the old people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not perfect. I still had a good time watching this final part of Jurassic World. It's certainly not the horror show critics would make you believe it is. The lady in the white dress was so slay. I agree with that. She was cool. My favorite review, though, says, I wish Jeff Goldblum slid into my DMs, which was a really great laugh line. Jurassic World with a taken spin. 'Twas fun and decent, mindless action.
See, I don't think it was mindless, but it was monotonous. Like my wife said, after about the 7th brush with death, you start to go like, oh, gosh, this is just too many. It's just losing its impact of how many times can they almost die by dinosaur.
You want to raise the stakes? They should have killed somebody too, I argue.
I think it probably, I honestly thought that Wu was going to die. I do want to compliment that I was watching a video about the production, and Jurassic World Dominion does use more animatronics and puppets in addition to its visual than the other 2 Jurassic World movies. They really wanted to get back to some practical dinos in this.
That's good. All right. What do we think it is on Letterboxd? What are our guesses?
I'm going to guess it's
Really?
sitting more like it. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say 3 stars.
That's your
Yeah, I'm going to guess it's sitting at a 2.8.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm not going to guess
three-
because I saw it.
Oh, okay. I'll do 3.2 because it's early.
Yeah, I just saw it when I was looking at those reviews on accident. It and no one got it, although I think David was the closest. You said 2.8, right?
Yeah.
It's 2.6, which is the exact same score as Fallen Kingdom.
I think it'll drop lower than that.
We'll see. I don't know. It's got like in the high mid 70s on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's all over the place. Weird. All right, that was a dinosaur movie. We'll see you all next time.
Eyes on me.